There you are.
No, Your Honor.
They're all good.
We can start bringing them up. You do have all the jurors that are coming up. That's instruction 2.2 of the Florida Standard Jury Instructions for Criminal Cases. Defense, I've muted your microphones at your table. Therefore, any communications that you have will not be recorded on our master system. So keep that in mind when you're also speaking, that those microphones will not be amplified as well. Not that either of you have had problems projecting your voice.
Okay.
Caution everybody in the audience. Please do not communicate with jurors. They will be in the courthouse complex over the next several days. That is a court order. So if anybody deliberately makes contact with the jurors and attempts to discuss this case with them, you will face sanctions, which could include contempt citation, which could also include a period of incarceration. So I just do want to warn everybody about that. I don't anticipate any problems, but just in case anybody had any crazy ideas. All right, let's go ahead and bring the jurors in, please. Folks, if you'll come right out here, I'm going to go ahead and give you a seating assignment in just a moment. So we're going to be configured much different than we've been the last couple of days. All right. Let me have you all take these seats as follows. Miss Urban, if you'll take the very first seat on the far right of the first row, you can get in from either side. Next to Miss Urban is Miss Dim. You only want to go in that way so you're not walking over each other, just for future reference. Mr. Carroll, you'll take the next seat. Mr. Boothby, yes, sir. Next seat next to Mr. Carroll. Mr. Powell, there you are. Ms. Thomas, we'll go next to Mr. Powell. And then Ms. Wall, Perfect timing. Mr. Price, if you'll take the far right seat in the back row. And next to Mr. Price, Mr. Andrews. Next to Mr. Andrews, Ms. Bose. And then Mr. Williams. And then Mr. Bomar. Mr. Lagasse, I know we're not close.
You actually did pretty good that
Did I get it right that time? Close enough. I'm expecting you to say close enough. And then Ms. Sexton. All right, that one seat's going to be the seat, mobile seat that goes in and out. All right, I'm not going to have you all administer the oath to serve as jurors in this case. Everybody else in the courtroom can be seated. Don't raise your right hand.
Do I solemnly swear or affirm that you will well and truly try the issues between the state of Florida and the defendant and render a true verdict according to the law and evidence, so help you God?
Okay, you all can take a seat. Don't be concerned on what's in that envelope yet. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Talk about that and a couple of other things. Before we get started, I'm going to ask you all this question. I'll ask it every day. And I asked it every day during jury selection in the morning. Has anybody seen, read, or heard any media accounts of this case overnight? Okay. Very good. I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody following my instruction. As I mentioned to some of you yesterday, that first thing I'm going to do this morning is read you some preliminary jury instructions. You will not have a copy of these instructions as I read them to you. They're relatively brief. It basically just explains what to expect as a trial progresses. When we get to that stage of the trial where I'm instructing you on the law that you have to follow in reaching a verdict in this case, you will have a copy of those instructions to both read along and take in the jury room with you when you deliberate your verdict in this case. So these instructions I'm giving you this morning are not instructions on the substantive law for you to follow in reaching your verdict, but just guidance for you during the course of the trial. When I'm done with that, the lawyers are going to present their opening statements to you, and I'll talk about the opening statements as part of these preliminary instructions. When we're done with the opening statements, we're going to begin with the presentation of the evidence and testimony in the case. We're going to keep a schedule similar to that that we had during the jury selection process. We'll take a mid-morning break around 10:15, 10:30. If anybody needs a break before then, either raise your hand, get my attention, or get one of the court deputies' attention, and I'm glad to take a break. Your comfort is most paramount to me. So if you need a break for whatever reason, let me know. We'll break for lunch around the normal lunch time. I'll give you ample time to get out and get something if you want to do that. We'll take a mid-afternoon break around the 3:15 area, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then, like I mentioned to everybody, we'll break around 4:30, 4:45, depending on where we are with witnesses. If I anticipate we'll go much longer than that, I'll definitely check with you before I do that to make sure your schedules will accommodate that. I know people have issues, childcare issues and so forth that may interfere with that, so I'll definitely check with you before that. And as we progress through this trial, I will keep you updated on scheduling, how we're doing on scheduling. If we're right on schedule, ahead of schedule, behind schedule, I'll do my best to keep you abreast with that. All right, so let me give you some of these preliminary instructions so we can get started. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have now been selected and sworn as the jury to try the case of the state of Florida versus James Terry Colley, Jr. This is a criminal case. James Terry Colley, Jr. is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder with a firearm, 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder with a firearm, 2 counts of burglary to a dwelling, and 1 count of aggravated stalking after an injunction. The definition of those crimes charged will be explained to you later. The state's charging document, which is called an indictment, is not evidence and is not to be considered by you as any proof of guilt. It is my responsibility to explain the law to you. It is your solemn responsibility to determine if the state has proved its accusations beyond a reasonable doubt against James Terry Colley, Jr. in accordance with the law that I provide you. Thus, the province of the jury and the province of the court are well defined and they do not overlap. This is one of the fundamental principles of our system of justice. Before proceeding further, it will be helpful if you understand how a trial is conducted.
At the beginning of the trial, the attorneys will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make an opening statement. The opening statement gives the attorneys a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the trial. What the lawyers say is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. Following the opening statements, witnesses will be called to testify under oath. They will be examined and cross-examined by the attorneys. Documents and other exhibits also may be produced as evidence. After the evidence has been presented, I will give you instructions on the law. The attorneys will then have the opportunity to make their closing arguments. Following the closing arguments by the attorneys, I will conclude with instructions. After the final instructions are given, you will then retire to consider your verdict. You should not form any definite or fixed opinions on the merits of the case until you have heard all the evidence, the arguments of the lawyers, and the instructions on the law that I will give you. Until that time, you should not discuss this case among yourselves. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence or lack of evidence in the law. I now instruct you not to communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, about this case. No communication includes no emailing, text messaging, tweeting, blogging, or any other form of communication. You cannot do any research about the case or look up any information about the case. If you become aware of any violation of any of these rules at all, notify court personnel of the violation. During the course of the trial, we'll take recesses, and you will be permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs. During these recesses, you must not discuss this case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence about this case, tell him or her that you are on the jury trying the case and ask that person to stop. If he or she persists, leave that person at once and immediately report the matter to a court deputy who will advise me accordingly. All cell phones, computers, tablets, or other types of electronic devices must be turned off while you're in the courtroom. Turned off means that the phone or other electronic device is actually off and not in a silent or vibrating mode. You may use these devices during recesses, but even then, you may not use your cell phone or electronic device to find out any information about the case or to communicate with anyone about the case or the people involved in the case. Do not take photographs, video recordings, or audio recordings of the proceedings or of your fellow jurors. After each recess, please double check to make sure your cell phone or electronic device is turned off. At the end of the case, while you are deliberating, you must not communicate with anyone outside of the jury room. You cannot have in the jury room any cell phones, computers, or other electronic devices. And I'll remind you that as the trial comes to a close, if someone needs to contact you in an emergency, we can receive messages and deliver those to you without delay. This case must be tried by you only on the evidence presented during the trial, in your presence, and in the presence of the defendant, the attorneys, and myself. Jurors must not conduct any investigation of their own. This includes reading newspapers, watching television, or using a computer, cell phone, the internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all to get information related to this case or the people and places involved in this case. This applies whether you are in the courthouse, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit places mentioned in the trial or use the internet to look at maps or pictures to see any place discussed during this trial. Jurors must not have discussions of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved in this case. So do not let even the closest family members make comments to you or ask questions about the trial. In this age of electronic communications, I want to stress again that just as you must not talk about this case face to face, you must not talk about this case by using an electronic device. You must not use phones, computers, or other electronic devices to communicate. Do not send or accept any messages related to this case or your jury service. Do not discuss this case or ask for advice by any means at all, including posting information on an internet website, chat room, or blog. What are the reasons for these rules? These rules are imposed because jurors must decide the case without distraction and only on the evidence presented in the courtroom. If you investigate, research, or make inquiries on your own, I have no way to make sure that the information you obtain is proper for this case. The parties likewise have no opportunity to dispute or challenge the accuracy of what you find. That is contrary to our judicial system, which assures every party the right to ask questions about and challenge the evidence being considered against it, and to present argument with respect to that evidence. Any independent investigation by a juror unfairly and improperly prevents the parties from having that opportunity our judicial system promises. Any juror who violates these restrictions jeopardizes the fairness of these proceedings, and a mistrial could result that would require the entire trial process to start over. A mistrial is a tremendous expense and inconvenience to the parties, the court, and the taxpayers. If you violate these rules, you may be held in contempt of court and face sanctions such as serving time in jail, paying a fine, or both. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of a defendant to prove his innocence. From the exercise of the defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt, and the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys are trained in the rules of evidence and trial procedure, and it is their duty to make all objections they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it is made. Likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had he or she been permitted to answer the question. During the trial, it will be necessary for me from time to time to confer with the attorneys outside of your hearing to discuss matters that require consideration by me alone. It's impossible to predict when such a conference may be required or how long it will last. When such a conference or such conferences occur, they will be conducted so as to consume as little of your time as is necessary for a fair and orderly trial of this case. From time to time, when I need to speak with the lawyers, I'll do it over here at what's known as sidebar. I'll turn off the overhead sound so you can't hear us. And if we're doing that, feel free to stand up and stretch your legs. Doing that if it'll just take a few moments. If it's going to take a little bit longer, I may have you retire to this jury room, or I may have you retire to the jury lounge if we anticipate it'll take a little bit longer. Let me talk to you about those envelopes that are in your chairs this morning. In there, you're going to find a pad and pen for note-taking. If you would like to take notes during the trial, you may do so. On the other hand, of course, you are not required to take notes if you do not want to. That will be left up to you individually. So in that envelope, you have been provided with a notepad and a pen for your use if you wish to take notes. Any notes that you take will be for your personal use. However, you should not take them with you from the courtroom. During recesses, I'll have you place your notepads back in the envelope, and the bailiff or court deputy will take possession of your notes and will return them to you when we reconvene. After you have completed your deliberations, the court deputy will deliver your notes to me. They will be immediately destroyed, and no one will ever read your notes. If you take notes, do not get so involved in note-taking that you become distracted from the proceedings. Your notes should be used only as aids to your own memory. Whether or not you take notes, you should rely on your own memory of the evidence, and you should not be unduly influenced by the notes of other jurors. Notes are not entitled to any greater weight than each juror's memory of the evidence. Now, folks, that concludes my preliminary instructions to you. In just a moment, we'll begin with the opening statements. Based upon the procedures that we follow, first we'll hear from the state, and then if the defense desires, we'll hear from the defense. All right, state, you may present your opening statement.
Thank you. May it please the court, counsel. You're fucking disgusting. That's what you are. Call me, or I'm going to come find you. Fucking whore. These are some of the last words Amanda Hawley heard from her estranged husband on the morning she was murdered. Words sent in voicemails, threats sent over text message, and words yelled at her as she was shot and murdered on her bathroom floor. Murdered after she heard the defendant go into her bathroom closet and shoot at one of her friends. It turned out to be her best friend, Lindy Dobbins. Lindy had been hiding in the closet, crouched down behind a chest of drawers. She was on the phone with 911, and she died with the phone still up to her. You will hear several 911 calls in this case, 2 of which capture the homicides on open lines. Both Amanda Colley and Lindy Dobbins called 911 just seconds before they were murdered. Those calls connected seconds apart, and they allow you to hear and witness just at least a part of what happened in the house that day that brought us here today. Amanda's call connects first, and it begins with her pleading with the defendant. You will hear her say, "He's not in there. He's not in there. Please stop." She's referring to a man named Lamar Dubberly, who the defendant was there to hunt down and kill. Lindy's call connects just 14 seconds later after Amanda's, and it begins with her screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God, I've just been shot. I've just been shot." You will learn that that was a shot that came through the closet door, grazed the arm of another friend and witness you will hear from, Rachel, and entered Lindy's foot at the back of the closet. She kept screaming, "Lindy," until the defendant walked into the closet, gun in his hand, pointed it at her head, and killed her. Shot her in the head and shot her in the shoulder, just inches below the head. These murders occurred August 27, 2015, in the neighborhood of Mirabella, which is in the rural Gulf Village area here in St. Johns County. It was just after 10:30 a.m. when the defendant, estranged from his wife and not allowed to have contact with her and not allowed to be within 500 feet of the home on Bellagio due to an injunction, committed these murders. Amanda Colley and Lindy Dobbins were not the only 2 individuals in the house that morning. Amanda's other friend, who I mentioned, Rachel Hendricks, was there, and a man Amanda was seeing, Lamar Dubberly, was also present. Rachel and Lamar lived. They escaped the defendant's attempts to kill them, and they will be here to testify and tell you exactly what they saw and what they heard that morning. In order to understand what was going on in the home at 260 South Bellagio that morning, I need to explain a little bit about the history and what was going on in the Colley family at that time. The evidence will show that Amanda and James Colley had been married approximately 8 years. They had 2 children. There had been marital problems for a while, and the 2 had separated the summer of 2015. Amanda sought and obtained a domestic violence injunction for her protection in August, earlier in August of 2015. During this time, the defendant moved out. He moved in with his sister. She lived, her name is Rhonda Colley Boatwright, and she lived off County Road 210 in a neighborhood called Southampton. You will hear throughout this trial that house, that area referred to as the house on Garrison. He was served that final injunction on August 10th, 2015. Deputy Pittman, who works in the Civil Process Division of the Sheriff's Office, will explain to you that process, that he was served. He had knowledge of that injunction. an injunction that didn't allow him to have contact with Amanda and did not allow him to go within 500 feet of their marital home. Both Amanda and James had entered new relationships with significant others. Amanda was dating a man she met at work, Lamar Dudley. The defendant was dating a woman he met at work, Amy Mason. The defendant was suspicious that Amanda had found somebody new, but she wasn't confirming his suspicions. He wasn't supposed to be talking to her. They were getting a divorce. They were separated. They were done. It was none of his business. But he couldn't let it go. Even with the new girlfriend of Amy in the background, the defendant was very concerned about her new relationship. The defendant had a good neighbor and friend named Mike Dickens. He lived just a few houses down, and Mike Dickens was sort of keeping an eye out for James, checking on Amanda. And the weekend before the homicides, you'll find out August 27th was a Thursday. The weekend before the homicides, Lamar Dudley was over at Amanda's house, and he was cutting the grass. The defendant's friend, Mike Dickens, saw that, took a photograph of him mowing the grass. He was shirtless in the front yard. Mike Dickens sent that photo to the defendant's sister, Rhonda, and she in turn sent it to the defendant. And within seconds of receiving that photo, the evidence will show you that the defendant began to harass Amanda. That was confirmation. Who is this? I knew it. You know, a lot of conversation about who this man was. And Amanda denied it. You don't know what you're talking about, none of your business. Again, you're not supposed to be talking to me. From her perspective, they were done. On August 26th, the night before the homicide, it would have been a Wednesday, the defendant spent a large portion of that evening talking to his girlfriend, Amy Mason, talking to her on the phone, texting with her, up until just about bedtime, 11 or so at night. Amy Mason went to bed, and she assumed that the defendant was going to bed. And she knew the defendant had a court proceeding the morning of the 27th. Based on cell tower location data, we know that he left his sister's house in Southampton that night after getting done talking to Amy Mason. Approximately, it's almost midnight, 11:54. His cell phone starts to move. It later registers off of a cell phone tower in Clay County about 1 a.m. And then evidence from those records and his phone later put him at the marital home on South Bellagio at approximately 3:45 a.m. He traveled to the home in the middle of the night. He entered it, and when he did, he found out Amanda wasn't there. Amanda was gone. Amanda was with Lamar. He had the kids for the night. His kids were at his sister's house in Rhonda, so he wasn't there to visit his kids. He was there between 3 and 4 in the morning to find Amanda. And when he found she wasn't there, he began going through the house. He went through her belongings, he went through her mail, and it was there where he found something he didn't like. The defendant found some adult toys, sex toys, that Amanda had ordered and had come in the mail, and they were in the house. This infuriated the defendant, and he began to trash the house. He pulled clothes all over the house. He emptied garbage cans all over the house. He began to bust all of the televisions in the house, to include ripping the screen off of the television in the master bedroom. If you've ever wondered what the inside of a television looks like, you're going to be able to see. He completely ransacked the house he was not allowed to be in. When he was done with that, he called his good friend Mike Dickens, the one who lived just a few houses away and had sent the photo of Lamar. He woke him up, drove to his house about 4:45 a.m. Mr. Dickens will tell you that's about the time, and it's confirmed by video surveillance that was located on that street. Mike Dickens will tell you the defendant was pissed. He was mad about what he found. This is further confirmation of what he believed to be true, what he couldn't let go. He had the toys in his truck with him. He was asking Mike Dickens to look at them, very, very, very mad about these items. Mr. Dickens will tell you that the defendant spent about 5 or so minutes at his house, 5 to 10 minutes, mad about these toys, told him what he did in the house, and Mike Dickens gave him a finger, said, "You need to go home." The defendant travels back to his sister's house in Southampton on 210. And that is when he begins. It's about 5 a.m., just before 5, when he leaves Mike Dickens. And that is when the calls and the texts begin back to Amanda Colley. He tries to get a hold of her initially by texting her and saying, "Avery, their daughter, is sick. Call me." When she didn't respond, either she didn't hear it or she ignored it. When that didn't work, he began to call and call and call. And Lamar will tell you he was there, he was with her, as she answered those calls, a couple of them. Phone records tell us that she answered 2 of those calls, approximately 5 a.m. Lamar will be able to tell you from his perspective what he heard, the anger, and the statements made by the defendant to Amanda at that hour of the night. After Amanda answered those calls, found out what he did, she stopped responding. From about 4:50 a.m. until the time of the homicides the next morning at 10:30, the defendant calls 22 times and texts repeatedly. Never stops, really, between 5 a.m. and 10:30. You'll find out that the evidence shows Amanda spoke to him just twice more. After the call at 5 a.m. where she found out what happened, she doesn't answer him, ignores every text, does not answer his calls. 9 a.m. is she answers a call and they speak for about 6 minutes. And that's during the time the defendant was traveling here to this courthouse complex that you're sitting at. And then again, her last call with him was after he left this area, after he left court and headed back north. 9:41, there was a 14-minute call. We may never know what happened on that call. But what we know, the evidence shows, is that after that call, which was placed on his drive, headed north on 95, back towards Jacksonville, back towards where he lived, back towards where he worked, he decided not to go to work. Instead, he returned to his bedroom at his sister's house, the house on Southampton, and he retrieved multiple firearms. He left that neighborhood, and there's a Speedway gas station just out front of Southampton. At about 10:14, you'll find out that he stopped at the gas station. After being at the house, he bought a pack of cigarettes, got a little bit of gas, and he bought a 24-ounce beer. He traveled then, not to work, but to the house on South Bellagio, the marital home. This time, he didn't drive down Bellagio. He went into an adjacent neighborhood. It's a big complex with several sub-neighborhoods inside of it. He drove into a neighboring adjacent one, parked in an abandoned house's driveway, and armed with 2 firearms, he made his approach from that neighborhood, through houses, through a wood line, and approached the rear of 260 South Bellagio from behind. His last communication out, about 10:30, just minutes before the homicide, was to his girlfriend, Amy Mason, telling her he loved her. Before we talk about what happened next in him entering the home, it's important to know what was simultaneously going on at South Bellagio. So after those calls at 5 a.m., Lamar and Amanda don't go back to sleep. They're obviously worried. They decide to both call into work because she needs to deal with what he just did to the house the night before. They decide that she should wait until they know he's going to be in court. She knew he had a court date. So she waits until that 9:30 hour to head home. Surveillance footage will show you that she returned home about 9:15 in the morning by herself. Lamar will tell you that when she got home, she placed a call to him, and it's a FaceTime call. You're not Apple people. Essentially, it's a call with video. So she called him, and she showed him, what she was discovering in the home, the damage, the ransacking. He was obviously extremely concerned, and he knew from the extent of the damage that he was seeing that he had to do something, even if Amanda didn't want to call law enforcement. Lamar reached out to Amanda's best friend, Lindy Dobbins, and Amanda had already also done that morning. So Lindy knew what was going on, and as Lamar's driving to the house, he's calling Lindy. He's like, we need to call law enforcement, telling her what he saw. This isn't right. So they talk. Lindy decides to leave work. She worked just up the road from Marabella at the Crocs store, The Elk. So she's gonna come help Amanda, console Amanda. Amanda's extremely upset about the state of her house. So she works it out at work, and she leaves work. Meanwhile, Lamar's calling the non-emergency number of the sheriff's office to report what the defendant had done in the middle of the night. Lamar arrives at the house, and then shortly thereafter, a public service assistant arrives. So the sheriff's office dispatches to those types of calls, at least to take the initial information. PSA Young will tell you that he met with Amanda. She was upset. She walked him around the house a bit, showed him what had occurred. She told him she was going through the divorce, and she knew her husband had done this, but she didn't want to file charges. She wanted to talk to her family. She wanted to talk to her divorce attorney. The surveillance video will show you that the PSA left the house that morning at approximately 10:09. When he left, he didn't know about the injunction. He did not know he was in court. Amanda didn't want to do anything, so he left information. If you change your mind, call a detective, a deputy, sworn deputy will come out and assist you. So he leaves approximately 10:09. Video surveillance shows Lindy arriving at the home about 10:11 that morning, just minutes after the PSA leaves. And Rachel Hendricks' car is seen coming in at 10:27. Lindy, during this time, has now reached out to Rachel, their other really good friend. 3 of them are good friends. And lets her know what's going on. So Rachel heads that way as well to help. The first 911 call in this case came in from Amanda at 10:36. Rachel was in that house for less than 10 minutes when gunshots rang out, hitting the rear sliding glass doors of the house. The evidence will show that as Amanda and Lindy were in the master bedroom, bathroom area assessing a large amount of the damage that was done in there, Rachel and Lamar were in the living room, kitchen area. It's open floor plan, you'll see. And a loud bang and shattering of glass is heard. Catches their attention, another gunshot is heard. Lamar immediately recognizes them as gunshots. He's got military background. And he looks up and he can see a bullet hole through one of the sliding glass doors. When he does that, he hears a male voice from the backyard scream, "Where is he?" So he takes off. He ran out through the kitchen and through the garage, and he takes off running. Rachel will tell you that same thing. She heard these things. She looks out. She's able to see the man, the defendant, that she's met, spoken to on several occasions, just to babysit their children, standing in the backyard beyond the fence on a walking path with a gun in his hand pointing at these sliding glass doors. She turned simultaneously and ran towards the master bedroom bathroom area where Lindy and Amanda were located. As the three women run into the master bathroom, imagine you walk through a bathroom door, there's a double vanity in front of you. There, Rachel will tell you there is a closet immediately to the right, a walk-in closet. It's a long, narrow, I refer to bowling alley closet, long and narrow. And to the left in the bathroom is the shower, tub, and toilet area, not a separate room, just all open. So the three women run in that area. Rachel closed Lindy and Rachel into the closet. Amanda's still out in the main part of the bathroom. Rachel will tell you that as she entered the closet, Lindy went and hid and crouched down by a chest of drawers that's running along the right side wall. Rachel is wedging her left foot at the closet door. You know closet doors don't lock. So she's wedging her left foot and she's got her arm on the door knob, keeping it close, barricading them in to this closet. As they're doing this, she hears, very quickly, she hears Amanda in the bathroom. She can hear James, the defendant, is now in the house, screaming. You will hear the testimony of Rachel and the evidence of the two 911 calls that come from two perspectives. Amanda's comes from the bathroom main area. Lindy's obviously comes from the closet. And the three of those things will paint a very vivid picture of what happens next. Once Rachel and Lindy are in that closet, like I said, she can hear the screaming in the bathroom. The defendant is screaming over and over again, "Where is he? Where is he?" Clearly looking for Lamar. He's trying to get into the closet, and Amanda's telling him, "He's not in there. He's not in there. It's Rachel and Lindy. He's not in there," begging and pleading with him to stop. It's during this time that the defendant turns and shoots Amanda. Rachel and Lindy hear that shot. And Rachel will tell you she doesn't hear Amanda scream again after that first shot. The defendant, after shooting Amanda, turns his attention back to the closet. He shoots into that closet, and that's a shot that, when he does so, it goes right over, it actually grazes Rachel's arm, and it enters in the back of the closet Lindy's foot. When that shot went off into the closet door, Rachel will tell you, I don't know, he busted into the door. At that point, I let go. She lets go of that closet door, and the closet door comes back on her, closes on her. She's between the wall and the closet door. And it's at that point where she watches the defendant walk past her with a gun in his hand and go and point it at Lindy's head. And she takes that opportunity to flip out and run out of the closet. She runs to save her life, and she leaves that house. She started checking on doors for the neighbors, eventually found one, ironically, at Mike Dickens' house. And she takes up refuge in a closet at Mike Dickens' residence. There was another family, Mr. Dickens wasn't there, but there was another family member there who called 911 for her as she hid in the closet. What Rachel didn't know happened as she left, but what the evidence will tell you is that when the defendant approached Lindy hiding in the closet, he shot her once in the temple and then just inches below again in her shoulder area, both lethal shots that killed Lindy with a 9mm handgun. When he exited the closet, he found Amanda in the bathroom over by the toilet area, not dead, hurt, but not dead. On the 911, one of the 911 calls, you can hear her beg for her life and say, "No, no, no, please don't. as he comes back towards her. That is when he calls her a fucking whore as he shoots her multiple times, emptying his 9mm and transitioning into a second handgun, 45 caliber, that he had brought into the house. The medical examiner will testify about the injuries of both Lindy Dobbins and Amanda Colley. And Dr. Bulick will tell you that he can tell that Amanda was positioned on the ground for a large portion of those shots. A lot of them are defensive wounds. She was trying to defend herself, trying to protect vital organs. There's a lot of shots in her legs, he'll describe to you, is commonly seen with trying to protect yourself. There are shots through arms, again, defensive wounds. She was alive, and she was trying to protect herself during this attack on the bathroom floor. You will hear that one of the last shots, a shot that actually entered and exited in her wrist, and then it enters her neck, severs her spinal cord, would have made her a quadriplegic at that point. She would have been able to defend herself after that shot. So that's how he's able to tell you it's, if not the last, one of the last shots, and killed her. The defendant left the 9mm handgun right on the bathroom floor, empty. He fled out the back doors into he was driving his sister's car that morning. It's a Marin Infiniti. So he fled out those back doors, across the way into that adjacent neighborhood, and got into his sister's car. He immediately called his father as he headed back to his sister's house, and he took a lot of calls at that time between various family members. He returned back to his sister's house in Southampton. The evidence will show you just briefly his cell phone evidence, cell site towers evidence you'll hear, puts him there, and he throws and abandons his cell phone in that neighborhood, on a neighborhood street, and it's later found by somebody riding their bike. The defendant was headed to Virginia, we later learned. He fled the area, obviously not wanting to be caught. He dumped his cell phone, but he brought with him the 45 caliber murder weapon and an AR-15. During the homicides, the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office Dispatch Center is receiving a lot of 911 calls. Amanda's, Lindy's, Rachel's, when she flees, and Lamar. Lamar, who left as well, ran. He ran through the neighborhood until he came upon some landscaper workers that were working in the neighborhood that allowed him to use a cell phone. His cell phone was in the house, not with him. So the sheriff's office has all these calls. They've got the immediate identifying description from Rachel that it is James Colley that has committed these murders. Physical description and identifying that that's who it was. They immediately began to dispatch resources to both Mirabella, Southampton, as it was his last known address. But by the time the deputies arrived on Garrison in Southampton, he's already gone. They made contact with his father and an uncle that is there. The house is secured and a search warrant is obtained at that time. A search warrant was obviously also obtained for 260 South Bellagio, and after all of this initial investigation in the first couple of hours, law enforcement is actively looking for Mr. Colley, and an arrest warrant is obtained. Approximately 12 hours after the double murder of Amanda Colley and Lindy Dobbins, the defendant was arrested after a traffic stop in Wise County, Virginia. In this case, he is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for the murders of Amanda and Lindy. The evidence in this case will overwhelmingly support a conviction for both premeditated murder and felony murder because he committed the burglary, and in the course of that burglary, into a house he was court-ordered not allowed to be in. He killed those 2 women. You will be instructed also on the 2 attempted murder counts of Rachel and Lamar, and 2 counts of burglary. The burglary he committed at approximately 4 a.m., and then the burglary he committed again at 10:30. That's why there's 2 different counts. And finally, he's charged with the aggravated stalking after an injunction. And that's for the contact and harassment that began with the burglary, continued with the calls and the texts all morning, and ultimately because of the acts of violence and the death of Amanda Colley. The state is confident that we will meet our burden in this case, and that you will have no doubt, that this is a case of premeditated murder and felony murder. Because the defendant was angry. He was rejected. He realized at that time he had lost control of Amanda. She was done with him. She had moved on. And when he drove to South Bellagio on that date, he was going there to kill her and Lamar. And even though Amanda told him Lamar wasn't there, she begged him not to go in that closet. She told him her friends were in there. He went in that closet and killed her best friend anyway. He thought Amanda was disgusting because of what he found, what he believed may have been going on, and what he knew. He told her that before he warned her to call him back, or he was going to come find her that one. He was mad, and instead of leaving court and heading to work, he made that choice. He didn't go to work. Instead, he went and armed himself with multiple firearms. You'll see the evidence from his bedroom and his sister's ammunition, firearms boxes thrown about his bedroom in a rush to get those guns and head to South Bellagio. He could have headed anywhere else to blow off whatever steam he had, whatever anger he had. But he decided to go to the one place he wasn't allowed to go. He was in control at that point, sadly. He could do whatever he wanted in that house, and nobody could stop him. And that's what he did. And ladies and gentlemen, that is first-degree murder. And at the end of this case, I will stand up before you again and ask you to render that verdict. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, the defense has an opportunity to present their opening statement. Mr. Shoemaker, you may proceed.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's very seldom that I get up here and agree with some of what the state has said to you. But this is a really different case. But before you are able to look at what happened on August 27th of 2015, you have to go further back in time. You have to go back to around April, and I'll get you there. But on August 27th, yes, JR does go to the house in the early morning hours. JR does break the TVs. He does make a mess of the house. JR does go to court. JR does leave court, go to Southampton. JR does go to Mirabel, and unfortunately, Amanda Colley and Lindy Dobbins are killed. The question here isn't who did that. It's never been a question of who did that. The question is, why did it happen? How could this happen? How could a person that loved his family more than anything in his life do that? How could a person who loves his kids more than anything takes him to Disney, goes on trips, make them orphans. How could that happen? Like I said, in order to get to that point, you have to go back in time some. It goes back much further than August 27th. It goes back much further than August 7th when the final injunction was put in place. It goes back much further than July 14th when Amanda Colley first petitioned the court for a temporary injunction. It goes back much further than that same time frame when Amanda Colley asked the court to change that temporary injunction to allow JR to see his kids, 50-50. And I'd ask you to think about that, because if somebody was so afraid of a man, would she voluntarily say, here, have my kids 50% of the time? This goes back much further than July 10th, when Amanda Colley went away for the weekend. Goes back much further than July 3rd, when Amanda Colley missed a community event where she was supposed to be with her family and spent it someplace else. This goes back much further than June 18th, when Amanda Colley was out late.
Your Honor, no Jack, based on the stipulation discussed prior to court.
Let me see counsel sidebar for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first of those sidebar conferences that I referenced earlier, so if you want to go ahead and stand up and stretch, feel free to do so.
See, ladies and gentlemen, JR realized that at some point his marriage was deteriorating, and this would upset him. He wanted to keep his family. He wanted to keep his children. He wanted to keep his wife. And let me just say, none of the things that I've said already justify anything that happened. What you have to look at is how we got to that day on August 27th. See, as JR feels that his marriage is going away, and he's trying to do everything he can to fight for it. He's asking his wife what's going on. The state alluded that she was denying stuff, saying nothing was up. And he starts feeling, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I am imagining things. Maybe I'm going crazy. She keeps telling me nothing's going on. So he goes and he seeks medical help. Because it's during this time frame, not only does he already have some orthopedic problems where he's taking pain pills, some hydrocodone, some Percocet, but then he starts having sleeping problems due to the nature of the issues. He can't sleep. He starts having panic attacks. He starts suffering from depression. All due to the fact that he feels as though he can't keep his family. So he goes and seeks help, and they put him on multiple medications. Now, he was already on Flexeril, hydrocodone, and Percocet, but then they end up giving him Ambien so that he can fall asleep. They end up giving him Wellbutrin for his depression and his panic attacks. Well, he's having bad reactions to that, so they switch him to Cymbalta. And it's right around that switch to the Cymbalta that all this starts taking place. Deal with what's going on.
Your Honor, may I take a break?
Okay, let's go ahead and take a recess at this point. There is a restroom right here, and also everybody go to the jury lounge. This is about for a break anytime. Folks, during the break, please don't discuss the case among yourselves and leave your notes here in the courtroom in the envelope. And if you all will follow our deputy, we're taking down the jury lounge. And those plan on 15 minutes. Everybody else to remain in the courtroom right now. We'll shut those doors. I want everybody in the courtroom while the jury's being walked out. Okay, y'all can be seated. All right.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't very sweaty.
Well, we'll see how he's doing after the break. Somebody's going to take on any issues with regards to that right now. And then we'll go back into your opening. And your witnesses line up, ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll be in recess till 10:15. Jurors should hopefully be out of the hallway. And in the event that they are not, please stay away from the jury. Mr. Gray, you walk the jury. Are they still in the room?
Jeff?
They're still in the room?
Yeah.
Okay, well, everybody remain for just a couple of minutes. Go ahead. We'll take them down to 2. While we're waiting, what is the state's witness lineup today?
As far as
Who you intend to call?
Yeah. The names?
Sure.
Okay. Rachel Hendricks, Bonnie Jemerson, Lamar Dubberly, Jennifer Meadows, Deputy DeLuca, Deputy Merritt, Deputy Koweski, Crime Scene Technician Bulmer, Brittany Mano, Richard Siliberti, and Crime Scene Technician Chris Keegan. And then obviously we have more if we happen to go really fast.
We can get through.
Yeah, that's ambitious.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, we'll be in recess until 10:15.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, can you get the note out of the on the record for a
You may
moment?
want to talk to your lawyers before you
Okay, I
stay.
can handle it.
Still talk to your lawyers.
I'm not- The motion was for experts, and now you're saying fair policy. I object to the motion. I want to recommend.
is still in session. If you all start making too much noise, you will be removed. The fact the jury's not here doesn't mean we are not in session.
No, sir, but he was, I'm sorry, he requested to use the restroom. I didn't.
Well, we're still in session. You can use the restroom in a minute. Is there something, I need to keep him here to address a couple issues, and I'm sure not going to do it without him being present. Is there anything we need to take up? I know Mr. Colley was wanting to talk to me, and I insisted he talk to his lawyers first.
Yes, sir.
We won't find all that.
It's our position. I know Mr. Shoemaker's not in the room right now, but certainly Mr. Colley can always feel free to communicate with the lawyer, but as to objections made to legal issues, we are the lawyers, and unless Mr. Colley wants to represent himself, be the one speaking to objections and issues with regard to the evidence. So all I can do is advise Mr. Colley, and I think he will, communicate with us about his concerns about certain issues, legal and otherwise, and then we can deal with them as the lawyers. But unless he's going to represent himself, that's the way it has to be handled.
Okay, Mr. Colley, you are currently represented by lawyers. They're the ones who will be making legal objections and motions. If you have an issue with the way that they are representing you, of course, I emphasize you need to talk with them first, but I will hear you out on any issues. If you think they are not providing you, I will conduct what's known as the Nelson inquiry during the course of the trial at any time that you have concerns about the representation that you may be giving or getting. But I caution you that anything you say here is being taken down by court. The prosecutors are here and could adversely affect you depending on the nature of what you say. Did you want to address me, or are you now satisfied after talking to your lawyers?
I am still concerned with the motion that was this morning we agreed upon. It was explained to me that we were only agreeing upon that the nature of my wife's affair was left out from the expert's testimony, not from the entire trial. And that's what I just witnessed. So I'm confused on how that's allowed to be excluded. When the motion that I agreed to not to object to this morning was from expert testimony, not written testimony.
Okay, I ruled on that issue. I'm not going to debate the legal issues with you. I've already ruled on the issue when there was an objection during the opening statement. You can talk to your lawyers about that. It's not the lawyers were doing something state objected. Well, that is something your lawyer was doing. Do you have any further questions about that?
No, I wanted on the record that I objected to that.
Okay, understood.
May I be heard on one
Yeah, sure.
related matter? Judge, Nelson inquiries are only relevant for or pertinent for situations where there's court of counsel. Either myself or Mr. Shoemaker or court of counsel. So if this issue comes up again, Mr. Colley's options are to continue with us to represent himself. I don't respectfully under Nelson, because we're not court appointed, need to inquire about effectiveness of counsel and all that. I know obviously every judge has legitimate concerns that everybody is properly represented. I share those concerns always, and on both sides of the fence. But for retained counsel, it's different.
Whether we call it Nelson or anything else, in a case of this nature, or any case for that matter, if somebody has concerns about their representation and the effectiveness of their counsel, I'm going to address it during the course of the trial, regardless of what you call it. Mr. Colley, do you still want to be represented by the lawyers?
Yes, I do. It's just the misunderstanding that everything was related to me, that the expert testimony.
All right, so that's still represented by the judge? Yes, I do. Okay, very well. Let's move on to the next issue. I am advised that Mr. Andrews, the juror who became ill during the opening statement of the defense, is asking to be excused during his, as a result of his illness. I am going to bring him out. I think sit anywhere if you're comfortable, but.
That'll be all right.
Okay, just have a seat for me real quick, if you'll be seated. Getting a lot of personal attention this morning. How are you feeling?
Maybe some bad breakfast, I don't know, but
Okay. You think you'll be all right?
I think I'll.
Okay, because I had a message from the deputy that, that you were seeking to be excused, but are you starting to feel a little better?
Yeah, I've kind of maybe gotten rid of what I didn't need.
Okay, that can definitely happen. And I'll give you a chance to go down to the lounge and get some water, coffee, or whatever.
I think I'm good right now.
Might make you feel better, but we'll still give you a little stretch. Okay, anybody want to inquire? Okay, thank you, Mr. Andrews. And if it happens again, just like you did, just like I told everybody, if you need a break right away, let me know.
All right, well, my apologies.
Don't apologize. You followed the instruction. I appreciate you doing that. And I sure hope you start to feel better as the morning goes on.
I'm okay.
Okay, I'm going to have the deputy walk you down to the jury lounge just because we need a few more minutes. And maybe moving around a little bit will help as well. Okay, thanks. Okay, let's take 10 minutes. We'll be in 10-minute recess. That goes to 10:45.
All right, let the record reflect. We have my audience present. I didn't ask you all this earlier. Are you all invoking the rule of witness sequestration?
Well, yes, sir, we were discussing that.
Okay. Let your witnesses know, you all, know how that works. I found out this is being live streamed because I just went next door and my judicial assistant had it on live streamed. So let your witnesses know that they not only can't discuss the case themselves, but they can't sit there watching the trial on the live stream. I don't know what they're doing, but just so they know that's a little unique. Also, to our TV guy in the back, when we're on recess, kill the live stream because people have conversations in here. Even though I won't be in here, they're all having conversations. If you just kill the live stream, I appreciate it. Okay.
I told him to stop.
Before we adjourn?
There is.
You're on the road back.
Just to kind of let you know, Judge, we've got some witnesses that'll be coming up, and obviously there'll be some pieces of evidence. Some family members in the courtroom. We've told them kind of what's coming up and what to expect. If you see them slip out, that's the reason why. So I just want to let you know. Nobody's trying to be a disturbance or anything like
I'm fine
that.
with people coming and going.
Okay.
As long as they're quiet.
Yes, sir.
They come and go. And I know you want to navigate in the courtroom. And
Yes, sir.
she can always see those folks off on that's coming up.
Well, thank you, Judge. That's it.
Okay. You can start that.
Try to figure out where I
You wanna
was.
repeat something.
Try to-
where you were.
Try to figure out what I was saying.
Have the court put you back to you.
I think I just want to leave that and say no.
Mr. Gray, you can bring the jury back, please. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Give you all a moment to get situated, especially since we've got the moving chair. You all can be seated in the courtroom. And just a reminder, just like happened before, if anybody's taking a break at any time, please let me know. I'll definitely make sure that everybody's comfortable. All right, we took a break. We were in the middle of the defense opening statement. That's where we're going to pick right back up. So, Mr. Shoemaker, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I remember we've just gotten through some of the medications he was on, and as he's going through these issues with his wife, he's already taken the medications for his orthopedic problems. He then has the Ambien, the Wellbutrin, the Cymbalta mixed into those. And he's continuing to have issues, and he's continuing to try to fight for his marriage, and he's continuing to try to resolve the issues that he has. However, he's meeting resistance, and he's not getting anywhere. And once the time sharing is set up at 3 on, 3 days on, 3 days off, 50-50 with his wife, there comes a time on the days that I have the children, I can't have any contact with my wife. On the days that she has the children, it's come on over, help out. Come see us. Help me with the kids. The AC's not working. So he's continuing to be pulled in and then pushed out on the days that he has the children. And this goes on and on. And his family is helping him to cope with that as he's living with his sister at this point. And his sister is giving him aid and helping with the children. And this comes to a head probably on the 25th of August when there's an issue with one of the children and they have to go up to a facility in Jacksonville and she asks for his help. He goes up afterwards, the AC's not working, we need some help. He goes over to the house, Mike Dickens, he saw him over at the house on that day and they were together. They looked like a family. He stays for a while, he leaves and goes back home. On the 26th, it's Trey's birthday is. James Terry Valley III, his only son. And while it's his birthday, he finds it odd that there's no call or anything from Trey's mother. And that's what leads to him going over to the marital residence in the early morning hours of the 26th. He gets over there, nobody's there, the dog's not there, and he starts looking around. And he finds the mentioned items, the toys, things that he knows that he never utilized. He finds men's clothing that he knows is not his. And Mike Dickens will tell you he saw the men's clothing. He saw the toys in the pickup truck. And Mike Dickens will tell you he wasn't drunk. He was upset. He was concerned that he lost his wife. And JR wasn't perfect. Yes, JR did have a girlfriend in Amy Mason. And he was trying to move forward. But that constant drawing in and pushing back kept him with his family, kept him with his wife. So he does return back to the house at Garrison very early in the morning. He tries to go to sleep. He has court at 9 a.m. You'll hear that he takes Ambien at about 5 o'clock, roughly. Tries to fall asleep. Finally, he's able to get to sleep. And his father gets up a little late. He rushes up and he takes his sister's car to court. Now, Rhonda Cowley, his sister, will tell you that when she left for a trip to Italy, she did not think anybody would be driving her vehicle. And she placed the handguns that she had received from JR during the injunction. She was carrying them around. She has a concealed weapons permit. She placed them in the car and locked it, not thinking anybody would use her car while she was gone. That morning, JR takes that car to court. He's in court, and his attorney, Kyle Bedran, will come in and tell you that, when he first met with him, he thought he was just nervous. He hasn't been through this before. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he's just nervous. He goes through the plea offer, and it ends up that he was getting a better offer than they originally had contemplated. So he was happy. He was excited. He goes through plea colloquy with Judge Tinham, and Kyle Bedran will tell you that he has to ask the same question a number of times. And as he's looking at him, he realizes, he seems a little nervous, but there seems to be a little more. Sweating profusely. He's jittery. Just something didn't seem right. They get done, and they didn't have a close relationship between the two of them, but he says when he gets done, he was happy as could be. He hugs me. Thank you for everything. Everything's great. On his way phone call at 9:41. And then the next thing we know, JR is arrested up in Virginia. Now the state has a bunch of witnesses to fill in between, but he's arrested up in Virginia. Now we have a couple witnesses that will come in, Dan Buffington and Dr. Mills. Dan Buffington is a clinical psychologist. Not a clinical psychologist, clinical pharmacologist, and Dr. Mills is a psychiatrist. And they're going to come in here and explain to you the effects that this cocktail of medications can have and how it can affect a person's ability to think, a person's ability to act, and a person's ability to form intent. And they're going to specifically talk about Ambien and how that can cause memory loss, how it can cause sleepwalking, how it can cause acts that people have no recollection of. In other words, at the time of these events, they're going to tell you that it's very possible that JR didn't know what he was doing or didn't know what he was intending to do. This impairment, which you will learn, comes through the witnesses. You're going to hear some terms called involuntary intoxication. And this impairment, you'll find out, keeps JR from being able to perform or to have the premeditated intent that the state says he has. He wouldn't have the ability to plan or premeditate a killing of either his wife or Olivia. He wouldn't have had the ability to intend to attempt to kill Rachel Hendricks or Lamar Dobbs. Now, one thing we're telling you, we're not saying that Mr. Colley is not guilty of anything because of the impairment. He just couldn't form the intent the state wants you to believe. And we believe that this isn't the case of premeditated first-degree murder or first-degree felony murder or attempted first-degree murder. This falls more in the line of either second degree, which the judge will give you the instructions on that, or even possibly manslaughter. As far as the event that took place in the early hours of August 27th, obviously he wasn't on his meds at that point, and you'll have to rely on your own on the testimony to make a decision on that. But when we're done with this and you hear all the testimony, we believe that based on our witnesses, based on the medication he was on, based on everything that took place, that you won't be able to come back with a first-degree conviction. Thank you.
Mr. Shoemaker. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the opening statements of the attorneys. We'll now begin with the presentation of the state's case. State will call your first witness.
Thank you. The state will call Rachel Hendricks.
And if you'll come out here to the witness stand, it's right here by this screen. And when you get here, I'll have you remain standing so the clerk can administer the oath to you. You raise your right hand, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do.
And you can be seated. Ms. Doug, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, ma'am. If you would, please introduce yourself to the jury.
Good morning, I'm Rachel Hendricks
And Ms. Hendricks, where do you live?
in St. Johns County.
How long have you lived in St. Johns County?
About 8 years.
What's your educational background?
Some college.
Are you currently working?
Yes, I am.
And what type of work do you do?
I do sales and marketing
And how long have you been employed in that area?
for a little over a year.
And prior to that recent work, what were you doing before that?
I was a stay-at-home mom taking care of my children.
And how many kids do you have?
3.
Back in 2015, August specifically, where were you living?
In Marabella.
And did you know a woman by the name of Amanda Colley?
Yes.
When did you meet her and how?
I met her in approximately 2012 in Marabella at a friend's house for a neighborhood gathering.
How would you kind of describe your relationship with Amanda? How was it at first, and if you became closer over time leading up to 2015? Just kind of just describe that.
It started off just as acquaintances. We had a child of the same age, so we, had discussed getting them together for play dates, and it never really came out at first. So we were just kind of acquaintances, texting friends, checking in with one another every now and then. Our friendship began to grow probably more in 2013 moving forward.
Okay. What kind of things would you guys do together at that point?
When we started hanging out more,
Yeah.
just go to the beach, go to the pool together. It was always involving the children, so play dates, just things with our kids.
Okay. Did you know or get to know and meet Amanda's husband at that time, James Colley?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And describe, your contact with him versus Amanda, and if that was different.
I met him at a 4th of July fireworks show in our neighborhood a couple of years after I had met Amanda. And it was just, there wasn't really a relationship until I started watching Devour 8th grade.
Okay. And tell the jurors about that. When was that, and how much contact would you have with Mr. Colley?
I babysat Avery the summer of 2014, I believe, while Mr. Colley was searching for a job.
Okay. And how would that bring you guys to have contact?
He dropped her off and picked her up each day.
Okay. And how long did you do that for?
For maybe a month.
Did you know Amanda's maiden name, and as things went forward, that another name she would go by?
Yes.
And what was that?
Loninger.
Did you live near Amanda and James in the Marabella neighborhood? I know it's a big neighborhood, so you could kind of describe where they live compared to where you live.
Maybe a mile away.
But in that same neighborhood?
Yes, in the same neighborhood.
Had you ever been to their house on South Bellagio before the day that we're going to be talking about today?
Yes.
Okay. How many times do you think you had been over there?
Maybe a couple handfuls of times.
Do you see James Colley in the courtroom here today?
Yes, I do.
Can you point to him and identify him by an article of clothing that he was wearing?
He's sitting up there.
Is he sitting at counsel table?
Yes, he is.
Your Honor, let the record reflect the witnesses identify the defendant.
So noted for the record.
Back in the summer of 2015, were you aware that Amanda and James were separated?
Yes.
you aware that James had moved out of the house?
Yes.
Do you know approximately when you were aware of that occurring? Just by month?
Maybe June.
And so when they separated, do you know where the defendant went to live?
With his sister.
And do you know where that was located or the sister's name?
St. Johns County. And Rhonda's his sister.
Did you know where exactly it was?
No.
Okay. But Rhonda's house, you knew that's where he lived. So Amanda was still in the home out on South Bellagio. Is that she was living in the marital home?
Yes, she was.
Okay. And they were splitting time with your children essentially during this time?
Yes.
And they had how many children?
2.
Did you know Lindy Dobbins?
Yes.
And tell the jurors, how you guys know when and in your relationship with Lindy.
Met Lindy maybe 6 months after I moved into the neighborhood. She befriended me as she was the first person I met in the neighborhood. She was at the pool and kind of just made like a public Facebook announcement on our Facebook page that she was going to be at the pool with her children and anybody was welcome to come up there. So I did because I wanted our children to meet some friends and I wanted to meet some other moms in the neighborhood.
When did you move into Maranatha?
2011.
Okay.
In April.
You meet Lindy before you met Amanda?
Yes, I met Lindy in August of 2011.
And did you know her husband, Chris?
Yes.
And how many children do they have?
They have 3 children.
During the time of the homicides in this case in August of 2015, where was Lindy working?
She was working at Crofts at the outlet, the St. Augustine Outlet Mall.
What about Amanda? Did you know what Amanda did or where she worked?
I know that she was working at Fanatics. I'm not certain of what position she held there.
Okay. Was that like a retail store similar to Crofts, or more was she at the corporate office?
It was a corporate office.
Okay. And so over this time, 2011, 12, moving to 2015, who were you closer friends with, if you were? Were kind of all 3 of you close friends?
I was always close to friends with Lindy, and then 2014, 2015, we all 3 became pretty close friends.
You may.
Thank you. Ms. Hendricks, I'm going to show you a photograph that has been previously marked as State's Exhibit A. Can you tell me if you recognize the person in this photograph?
It's Amanda.
Okay. And photograph B, do you recognize the person in this photograph?
Lindy.
And those are photographs of them taken close in time prior to their deaths.
Yes. Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, State will move into States A and B.
Any objections? No. Without objections, those will be received as State's Exhibits 1 and 2. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the first 2 exhibits that have now been introduced in this trial. All the exhibits, or most of the exhibits, will be with you when you deliberate your verdict in this case, so you'll have an opportunity to see all these exhibits.
Next, Ms. Hendricks, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit D for identification. Can you take a look at that disc and let me know if you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what do you recognize it to be?
My signature and date.
Okay. And did, prior to coming to court, did I review with you a PowerPoint presentation with some photos in it?
Yes, you did.
And all the photos in that presentation, were they true and accurate photos?
Yes.
Of Rachel and, of Amanda and Lindy, and of photos of the home on Bellagio?
Yes.
Yeah, at this time, State would move to admit States D and permission to publish.
Do you see this, Mr. Shoemaker?
I've been provided those, yes, sir.
Any objections?
No, sir.
All right, without objection, that will be received as State's Exhibit 3, and you may go ahead and publish.
whole system needs to be reset. I don't know if that's the case or not. Judges were here the last few days, but we can take care of that during the recess. I can have somebody look at it, but do you have hard copies of non-electronic copies?
No, Your Honor. We only need to take a second to reset them. They were working right before we started. I'm sorry.
Let me reset the whole system.
Thank you. You could see it on your end, Judge.
Oh, I just pressed the reset.
Right, okay. I'm just making sure. Well, there we go.
It's scary when I get something to work.
Can we take a recess and try to figure this out?
Can we go for a little while, or do you need that right now?
No, I mean, I can go for a little bit,
Let's go for
Okay.
a while.
but. Ms. Hurst, I want to direct your attention to the morning of August 27, 2015. Right? How did your morning start? What were you doing in the early morning hours?
I woke up like usual, started my day, got kids ready for school, dropped them off at school, and went over to a neighbor, a friend who lives in the neighborhood, who was a hairdresser, and I had done.
Okay. Did there come a time that you were notified that something was going on in Amanda's house?
Yes,
And who notified you of that?
Lindy.
Do you remember approximately what time?
It was in the 9 o'clock hour, approximately 9:15, 9:30.
Okay. You had a hair appointment, right?
Correct.
And what did you do? What was your plans based on the information? Without telling us what she told you, but what were you going to do after your hair appointment?
I was going to go over to Amanda's house and check on her.
Okay. And did you do that at some point?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what did you see when you drove over to Amanda's house? You know, what cars are there and what do you see?
I saw a PSA officer pulling out off of her street as I drove in. And then whenever I approached the house, I saw Lindy's car and a white pickup truck in the driveway.
That time, did you know who that pickup truck belonged to?
No,
What happened after you saw the car? Was Amanda's car there as well?
I'm sorry.
Was Amanda's car there?
It was in the garage.
Okay. And so what did you do?
I went inside. I walked inside and walked up to Amanda and Lindy. Amanda was crying, and I just gave her a big hug and told her that it was going to be okay.
And what was she was upset? She was crying at that time?
Yes, she was very upset.
What did you see? What did you observe inside the home?
I saw a ransacked home, a mess everywhere, clothes, things scattered about.
What kind of damage did you see? Saw clothes? What else?
I saw clothes, I saw broken TVs, I saw garbage cans dumped over.
And you had been in that house before, and that's not how it was typically kept, right?
Right.
What kind of damage to the TVs?
Busted TVs, like this.
More than one? More than one?
Yes.
What happened after you finished kind of talking to Amanda? What happened next? Was there another, who's at the house when you get there?
Amanda, Lindy, and Lamar were at the house when I arrived.
Did you know Lamar prior to that date?
I knew, yes, I had met him one time previous to that day.
And you know that's someone Amanda was seeing at that time, correct?
Yes.
So after your initial contact with Amanda and kind of looking around, what happens next?
She walked me through the house to show me different things that were vandalized, if you will. She walked me to the master bedroom, master bath, showed me the garbage cans that were dumped over and clothes everywhere. And then when we walked back out of the master bathroom, Lamar had called me to go out into the garage, look in the garage.
Okay. After you and Lamar finished in the garage, what happened next?
I went back into the house, standing in the living room, and a small explosion, like a bang,
Okay.
coming from the outside in.
Okay. What did you do? What did you see?
First, I was trying to figure out where it was coming from and what it was. So I looked out back from, obviously the glass was shattered and falling on the floor. So I looked out back and I saw Mr. Colley standing in the backyard with a handgun shooting into the living room.
Okay. And you immediately recognized him?
Yes, I did.
Where was he standing? You're at the rear sliding glass doors looking out in the backyard? Is that
Yes, I was in the living room looking through the sliding glass doors
into the
into the
backyard?
backyard.
And where is that backyard fenced?
Yes, the black wrought iron fence around the property.
Thank you. Yes, you can leave it up. Yes, sir.
Did you want to use that?
Yeah, you can leave that up. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Our tech people here.
Thank you.
Wonders of the email.
Okay, so you're looking out. There's the black fence. Where do you see the defendant?
Standing on the behind the fence on a walking trail that loops the neighborhood.
Okay. Ms. Hendricks, I'm going to back up just a minute since we have our system working here. And the two photographs that are displayed on the screen, those are the two photographs I just showed you and we admitted into evidence a few minutes ago.
Yes.
And can you describe who on the left and the right, who is who?
Amanda is on the left with the blonde hair and Lindy's on the right with the dark hair.
And photograph A on this exhibit, what does this depict?
A picture of the front of the Colley home.
And that's South Bellagio?
Yes.
Photograph B, you were kind of describing the vehicles earlier. Which vehicle is yours?
The black van.
At the back of
the back.
Okay. Lindy's vehicle?
Is the black SUV.
Just in front of it?
In front of mine.
And then the white truck, and then the white car in the garage. Is that Amanda's car?
That's Amanda's car.
I'll show you some photographs, and we have a couple that depict this. Is this photograph from the vantage point of sort of walking in the front door, looking towards the back of the residence?
Yes.
Okay. What is sort of, you're looking at this photo, what is to the right of this area?
The living room and the kitchen. It's a very open floor plan.
Moving to photograph D, this is just a little bit now to the right of that, correct?
Yes.
And what's that little room there off to the back?
A playroom.
I want to kind of use these photographs and let me know if you need to see a different one. where, if you recall, where were you when you first hear the glass and the bang that you described earlier?
I was standing in front of, right about in front of that staircase.
Okay. So backing up using photograph C, like you said, right in that living room area between the rug and the staircase?
Yes.
And so you look out and you see the defendant. I'm going to show you photograph F on the exhibit. This is obviously, can you describe the vantage point of this photograph and what you, in relation to what you were talking about before?
That is behind the property, that's behind the fence, and the walking trail is the
Asphalt. that you see?
asphalt, yes.
Yeah.
That's the walking trail.
So this is the back of the Colley house back there?
Yes.
And so you saw him where? Standing on that path?
Yes.
Photograph G. What room in the house is this?
The master bedroom.
And is this clothing and items on the bed, is that part of the ransacking that she described?
Yes.
Photograph H. What does that show us?
The broken TV.
Was there damage to the TV in the living room as well that you were able to see?
Yes.
Not like this,
No, not like that.
but damage.
Yes.
Okay. So you see Mr. Colley on the back path and you have your gun, correct?
Correct.
What do you do? What do you do, and what does Lamar do at that point?
I, again, was trying to figure out, I said, what the hell was that? And he said, that's gunfire. So everyone kind of shouted, run. Lamar ran from the kitchen out the garage. And Amanda and Lindy ran into the master bedroom, and I followed.
And so in this master bedroom, we've seen these two photos, G and H. I'm going to show you photo I. Is this a photograph of the entrance from the bedroom into the master bath suite?
Yes.
Okay. If you're looking at it from this vantage point, what's in this bathroom? Can you describe what you see if you go right and left?
To the left, there's a toilet and a shower. And to the right is the bathtub and double vanity. And there's a walk-in closet to the right.
And so what happens? You all run, and where does everybody go?
Amanda ran into the bathroom and hid. And Lindy ran into the master closet and hid. And I followed Lindy into the closet and slammed the door and barricaded us in.
Can you describe that a little bit? When you say barricade, what did you do?
I pushed my foot up underneath the door and had my left hand on the doorknob, trying to lock it. There was no lock on the door, so I was trying to lock it and just to keep.
Kind of like I'm
Yes.
gesturing, like
Yes.
holding the door closed
Yes.
with your fist and wedging your foot under the door. And where did Lindy go?
Lindy went and knelt down next to a chest that was up against the right wall of the master closet. She hid behind that.
Photograph J. Is this the bathroom into closet? Is this the closet we're talking about?
Yes.
And it's sort of a long, narrow closet. Is that fair?
Yes, it is.
You can see a laundry basket sort of sticking out from that white door. Is that on the chest of drawers that we keep referring to?
Yes.
So that chest of drawers is up against the right side. Lindy was behind it.
On the side, yes.
Crouched down. Yes. And I'm going to show you K and ask you if this is the area you're talking about.
Yes.
So you're in the closet, you've got the door barricaded. Tell us what you're hearing and what's going on.
Immediately after we went into the closet and slammed the door, I heard Mr. Cawley in the bathroom in a conversation with Amanda. Lindy had called 911 and had shown me that she had 911 recording. She wasn't talking, but she had them on the phone so that it was recording so that they could hear what was going on. Like I said, Amanda and Mr. Cawley were outside in the bathroom area arguing. Mr. Cawley was wanting to know where is he? Where is he? Where the fuck is he? Amanda was, very upset, crying, saying that he's not in here. I don't know. He's not in here. At one point, I believe Mr. Cawley came over and tried to get into the closet door, and Amanda said, he's not in there. Rachel and Lindy in there. That's Rachel and Lindy. And Lindy said, it's Lindy in here. I never said anything, but she shouted out and said, it's Lindy. At that time, I heard a shot while Amanda and Mr. Cawley were arguing, and that was all I heard of Amanda. And then Mr. Cawley was trying to get into the bathroom door, saying, open the door, I'm going to shoot. So he shot through the door where I was standing. The bullet grazed my arm. So I backed off, and the door banged up against me in the closet.
And you see the photographs that are depicted here on the screen, slide L. This is inside the closet looking at the door, correct?
Yes.
So, you're standing just there on the inside of the door?
Yes.
And so, that shot comes through the door, and you actually feel it? You see it? Like you said, it grazed your arm.
It grazed my arm. I felt it. It was like a rub burn.
And what happens next?
The door came in on me. I backed up and let the door come in on me. And Mr. Cawley walked past the door straight over to Amanda. I'm sorry, Lindy, who was kneeling down. Heard Lindy say, oh my God, no. And I ran out of the closet and heard a shot and ran out the front doors of the home.
You saw Mr. Cawley with a handgun in his hand when he came in the closet?
Yes.
And did you see him point it at Lindy?
Yes, at her head.
What was he wearing?
Black slacks with a white button-down collared shirt.
When you heard the initial gunshots, when you heard what was going on in the bathroom, what were you thinking?
I was scared, thinking that he was coming in to kill him.
Was he trying to get into the closet during this?
Yes.
Physically?
Yes.
You kind of describe, do you just slip out from around that door?
Yes.
And run out of the house? Okay. When you get out of the closet and you're in the bathroom area, do you see Amanda?
No.
And there's a door, it's not just a door frame, there's a door that swings open to that bathroom as well. Do you remember that? No.
Yes.
Remember that? So this is an image. You can see that there's a bathroom door there as well. What area is that kind of covering or blocking, so to speak, if you were to?
The toilet area.
Okay. So you ran out of the house. Where did you go?
I ran out of the house and went to a couple of the homes next door, trying to find someone that would let me in, and I was just trying to run and hide. And ended up running to a home, ringing the doorbell, and the door was unlocked. locked, so I just went in.
And did you later learn whose home that was that you ended up running?
Yes, it was a mutual friend's home.
Okay. Do you know who it was?
It was the Dickens residence.
Let me show you this photo, photo M. Is this the Dickens house or is this another house?
No, it's not their house.
What is that circle and close-up photo of?
My flip-flops?
You run out of them essentially?
Yes.
And so you get inside, you later learn it's the Dickens residence. What do you do?
I told them that people have been shot and I need to call 911.
Did someone call 911 for you, or did they?
Someone called 911 for me and then handed the phone to me after the dispatcher came on.
And Your Honor, may I approach? Ms. Hendricks, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit C for identification. Can you take a look at that one?
Yes.
And then you recognize it.
Yes, I do.
And did you sign and date the CD after listening to your
Yes.
and were parts of this call, other than the part of the call that were redacted for court, is it otherwise true and accurate recording of your call?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, State would move in State C and permission to publish.
Is there any objection?
No, sir.
All right, without objection, State C will be admitted in evidence as State 4. Folks, you're about to listen to a audio recording. This recording has been edited to eliminate irrelevant portions that would not add to your understanding of this case. The fact that the recording has been edited should not concern you in any way. It must not impact the way that you consider and listen to this evidence. You can go ahead and publish, Ms. Duncan. Thank you.
He was in the house shooting, and I just ran. She said he was in the house shooting. She ran out with the neighbor's house at 229. She said the law enforcement was just there because the husband ransacked the house during the night. They just left. She said he's still paranoid. I think he shot everybody. He has a handgun shooting everybody. Husband is a handgun. Alright. we've got people coming. I know. I'm so scared. I know. This is taking drugs. To get this. I'm so scared. Nicole, listen to me. The residence is in the cul-de-sac, correct? Correct. Okay. Residence is in the cul-de-sac. What's it look like? It's like a beige colored house. It's a beige colored house in the cul-de-sac. There is a garden flag, like a little yard garden flag that has a T on it. I need to get rescue stage. Anybody go to rescue? Johnson, I don't want him to go outside. He's gone. 260. It's 260. It's 260. Shoot at the house. It's 260. It's 260. She said that he started firing the gun and she ran. Have you seen him firing the gun? Yes, I got grazed by a bullet. She said she got grazed by a bullet. He started firing and she ran to the neighbors. But he point blank shot my friend that was right in front of me. I mean, I'm scared to death for my life. So, I mean, he shot me and then he shot Wendy Dobbins, our other friend that was there with us. I'm hiding in a closet at the neighbor's house. I'm scared to death. She's at 249 and at 260. She said he did shoot her friend. She was grazed and she left. And I think he shot Amanda at point blank. I'm so scared. Do you see if he's in his car or do you know? I don't want to. I'm hiding in a closet. I'm too scared. I don't know whether he's in his vehicle or in the house. His vehicle was never there. He walked from behind the house on a walking trail that we have in our neighborhood, and he started shooting through the living room glass. And then all right, hang on a second. All right, and his vehicle was not there. He walked through a trail from behind the house and started shooting into the house. The vehicle's not there. That he could walk through the trail and leave behind the house and start shooting into the house and got it. All right. Can I call in? I was trying to barricade the door and it open and I ran out when he walked up to my car. He was hiding in the closet with me and I was behind the door and he walked up to her and he pointed the gun at her and I heard a gunshot and I just went in. Okay. What's your name? My name is Rachel Hendricks. Oh my gosh. This is the worst thing I ever happened in my life. You know me? I know. Can you tell me what James is wearing? Yes, he's wearing a white dress button-down collared shirt with black dress pants. He's got on a white button-down dress shirt, black pants. And he's got blood all over him. Yeah, I'm dead. He is. Nothing. He came from behind the house on the walking trail. Yeah, that's why I want to try to walk the door. I don't want him to go in here. Yes, her. Yes. And my friend Wendy. Wendy, yes. Her too. That's why I told you guys that I didn't want. I don't want him to go over there. Rachel? Yes, ma'am. I want you guys to stay in the house. Okay, we are. The doors are locked. All right. Let the house back. Anybody see anything? No, they don't see him because he walked from behind the house. We have a trail in our neighborhood from behind the houses. It's a walking trail, and that's where he came from. He started shooting through the glass window, and glass started flying everywhere, so we all ran and hid. And somehow within seconds he got inside the house and just started shooting everybody. And I was able to run. Oh my God, thank God, my Lord. downstairs, he shot my nose, bro. And I had to leave him there, I couldn't stay. Oh my gosh. I am there. Hang on, okay? What you doing? I know. I'm so scared. I'm scared he's gonna come try to find me. Oh gosh. Did you point the gun at Rachel? I am Rachel. He pointed at Amanda. He pointed at Lindy, Lindy. He shot the door while I was standing, and I was trying to barricade the door and was beating on it, and he shot the door, and like the bullet kind of grazed my elbow and I'm not moving anything, or it's just. So you didn't actually see him shoot her, you just actually see him point the gun and step off, you heard a shot? Yeah. How many shots? It was one. There was one, but it was just like right at her. I'm really scared. I hope they're coming. Please tell me what's there. Do you know that you're going to try to come look for me? Just stay inside, stay away from the windows, stay away from the doors, you got everything locked. I'm friends with these people that just ran into their house because I didn't know where to go. I just walked in. Well, just stay where you're at. Alright, they've got everything locked up, okay? Stay away from the doors from anywhere they can see you, okay? I am. Supposedly it was 10:50. I was on the phone with Rachel. She's the one that ran out of the house with got a brace on her arm from a bullet. She got split. I can tell you that. I don't feel safe. Phone's in her name. Okay. Okay, I'm on the way. I'm on the thank you. All right, Rachel. Over there. Keep going. Over there. Right there. On my elbow. I'm fine. I'm not bleeding. Are they there? No, we're in the area. Just stay on the phone. Do not hang up the phone. You understand? I understand. I'm just so scared. And I'm staying on the phone with you. Make sure everybody's away from the windows. Is Jim going to see you, or just a friend, or? No, I'm his friend. I'm his wife's friend. Oh my God, I'm his friend. Oh my gosh. Here, yeah, here. Rachel. Yeah. Wait, why? Okay. Oh my gosh. There you are. Stay on the phone. Oh my God. Just stay on the phone. Get the house and everything's secure. Everything. Just want you to stay on the phone so I know what's going on. I know, I understand. I'm just so scared of being shot. Just stay on the phone with me, okay? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that should be what their front door. Can I mark what I'm writing here? Yeah, 249. Is that gentleman with you? Yeah, okay. Double check, make sure I identify myself. She said that the deputy should be right there on our door. Okay, there in front of where I am, there's 4 policemen. Okay, in front of the house that I got, but they're not here to speak to me either. They have their guns on. Okay. They're pointing at this house, but this is not the house that they're in. Well, they understand that, they just want to make sure that, okay. They're scared. When she's in the house, she can see them, she's scared. She sees them with the guns drawn. She said they're not there to talk to her. She's trying to tell them outside the house that this is all occurring. Alright, see him walking upstairs, sorry that I had to do this to you guys. Yes, ma'am. Okay, see him walking up to the door? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I'll leave that one. I'll leave that one. I'll stay on the phone and you answer the door, okay? Okay, she wants me to come out and share. The deputies are there, okay? The deputies are there. I'm Rachel. Yes. On the phone, go talk to him. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hendricks, at that point, you can hear, were uniformed law enforcement officers arriving in the area?
Yes.
Did you, in fact, step out and talk to them or talk to them?
I don't recall.
But you remember seeing them
Yes.
Coming through the neighborhood with firearms?
Yes.
You knew Lindy had placed a call to 911 because she had kind of shown you her.
Yes.
Did you later learn after the fact that Amanda had also called 911?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity prior to court to listen to those calls?
Yes.
And how many calls did you listen to?
2.
Whose voices did you hear on those calls?
Amanda and Lindy.
Did you hear a male voice on those calls?
Yes.
And whose voice was that?
Mr. Colley.
May I approach, Judge?
You may.
I'm going to show you, Ms. Hendricks, what's been previously identified as states YY. Prior to coming to court, you had an opportunity to review the calls I just asked you about and initial and date the CD.
Yes.
And those are the calls with Amanda, Wendy, and the defendant.
Yes.
All right. There are no further questions.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Hendricks.
Good morning.
You stated that J.R., Mr. Colley, had moved out of that marital residence sometime in June, you thought?
That summer, yes.
And between June and August 27th, were you aware of any times that Mr. Colley and Mrs. Colley were together?
Your Honor, Jack, Mr. Rollins.
I'm not, I am. Ask me again, please.
Between June, when Mr. Colley moved out,
Yes.
and this terrible day on August 27th, were you aware of Mr. Colley and Mrs. Colley spending time together?
I'm not aware.
And when you stated that you'd gone into the garage, and after the garage, you came back into the living room?
Yes.
All right, how long were you in the living room before you heard believe you stated that if you look at picture C here, you would have been near the staircase.
Yes.
Right? And when you looked out directly out the blinds there, you could see Mr. Colley back on the path.
Yes.
I want to draw your attention to the pictures on the wall. Do you know who they are?
Yes, those are family photos.
And could you identify them?
The middle one, I don't know about the left one. It's obviously a baby photo of either Trey or Avery. The middle one is Amanda, Mr. Colley, Trey and Avery. And the one on the right is Mr. Colley with one of the children. I can't see it.
And
Looks like Trey.
And those pictures would have been on the wall approximately 3 months after Mr. Colley moved out.
Yes.
And I believe that at one point you stated that Mr. Doggerly was in the kitchen when the first shot rang out.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's a good picture. I guess if you look at this picture, where is the kitchen in relation to that sofa that's on the right?
It's behind it.
So it would be further off to the right-hand side.
Yes, slightly.
And how many, well, I think on the day, August 27th, you gave a statement to law enforcement.
Yes.
And on the day, do you recall telling the detective that Mr. Colley looked blacked out as he walked by you?
No, I don't recall that.
I don't know anything else.
Any redirect? And you are excused, subject to recall?
She is.
Okay, you are subject to recall, which you're still under subpoena, change. Thank you.
Thank you.
How long is your next witness?
It would be a shorter witness with the publishing of calls.
Okay, let's go ahead and call your next witness now.
The state would call Bonnie Jemerson.
Folks, we'll take our lunch break after this witness. This person, if you'll take the witness stand right here. You'll remain standing. Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Thank you, ma'am. Take a seat.